Slow living tends to conjure up montages of people drinking their morning coffee barefoot in a meadow and watching the sunrise. That slow living aesthetic passed me by. I got the drying eggshells in the greenhouse, constantly filthy, dirt under my fingernails kind of slow living. If it wasn't for the fact that everything I do takes absolutely ages, I'd question whether it counted as slow living at all.
I'm not sure how long that little fix is going to last, but I think this whole thing is potentially going to need redoing next summer anyway, so hopefully it'll do until then.
We live in a world of instant gratification, and as someone whose job is essentially social media, a place full of fast transformations, doing things slowly often feels like I'm doing something wrong.
I'm forever trying to remind myself that there's value in slow, small scale projects, and that doing things like taking breaks to stop and eat food are worthwhile, even if it means jobs take longer, because if it's going to take ages anyway, I might as well enjoy the process. I saw something online about chickens apparently liking cool water to splash around in when it gets hot. Admittedly, I did zero research into this, and I don't know if it's for places that get properly hot and not just Scottish hot, but like with almost everything else I do for my chickens, they could not care less about it. I'm slightly concerned about how empty the water butts are getting, and we're only in May. It doesn't bode well for the state of the well or the continued water supply to my house. But it is Scotland, so we could get rain at any point and then everything would fill up again. I had the bright idea to make a batch of rhubarb and chili jam in my slow cooker yesterday on the hottest day of the year so far. It was only supposed to take between 4 to 6 hours, and I put it in at 9 a.m. and took it out at midnight. And it's still runnier than I would like it to be, but it'll have to do. It's a recipe that needs to be water bath canned, so that is first thing on my list for today because I did not have the energy to do that late last night. Okay, before I do anything else, I need to move my piles of hoarded materials somewhere else. While the weather's dry, I need to cut the grass because I want the grass clippings to mulch my raised beds with, and it's already getting pretty long. If I don't do it soon, I'm not going to be able to get the mower over it, and I'm going to have to trim the whole lot. And my arms might be quite a bit stronger than they once were, but they still don't like holding a strimmer. My goal is to eventually have a lot less lawn, mainly for biodiversity reasons, but not having to spend 4.5 hours a week mowing every summer will be a definite side benefit. The chickens are getting the grass cuttings with all the dandelion seeds in, and the stuff with less seed is going to go on the vegetable beds, so everyone's happy. I am so sweaty. My glasses keep sliding down my nose. That's taken 3 hours and I haven't done the big lawn in front of the house, but that's gonna have to wait for another day because I need to have a sit down and hydrate. I'm pleased to report that the pond I put in a couple of weeks ago seems to be doing okay. I haven't seen any wildlife yet, but it's still full of water and a couple of the plants have started flowering, so I'll take that as a win.
I've done a few batches of water bath canning now, but I've never done any pressure canning, so I'm pleased to be working with pressure canning products for this week's ad. They sent me the CanMate 22 quart, which is the only pressure canner that's tested and certified for European regulations. Being able to safely preserve food for long-term storage without relying on my freezer is really important to me because I've only got so much freezer space and I live in fear of power cuts. If you'd like to learn more or try pressure canning yourself, you can check out the link in the video description. I looked up beginner canning recipes online and lots of people recommend canning water as your first project because that way if it goes wrong you haven't wasted kilos and kilos of food, and if it works and the jars seal you've got potable water in long-term storage, which might not sound like a big deal, but I'm on a private water supply and last year there were several weeks where I didn't have any running water. According to the instructions I'm following, I need it to be at 10 pounds of pressure for 10 minutes. I'm meant to put some cream of tartar in the canning water to stop the cloudy residue building up on the outside of the jars, but apart from that it seems to have been a success, and next time I'll try canning food instead of water. But now I've got several litres of potable water ready for long-term storage, and it'll last a lot longer in glass jars than it would in plastic bottles, so that feels like a win to me.
Apparently I don't have enough old junk already because I'm on a quest to collect old galvanised containers, as I think they'd look good as planters full of flowers up next to the cottage. I've ended up buying quite a lot more plug plants from garden centres this year than I did last year, which kind of makes me feel like I've failed a little bit.
but I've been really busy and I didn't have the same amount of space inside to start things off as I did last year. And sometimes you can only do what you can do. There are still lots of seedlings in the greenhouse, and I've got quite a bit more seed sowing planned because the season starts a lot later up here, and we only had our last frost date last week. One of my favourite things about living in northeast Scotland is the UK is having a heat wave this week, and parts of the country, including the southeast of England, which is where I'm from originally, are seeing temperatures around 35 degrees Celsius. But here in my bit of Aberdeenshire, according to my phone, which isn't always the most reliable when it comes to the weather, it's apparently 16 degrees, and honestly, that is my happy place. I do kind of wish I had an ice cream though, but I don't have any in the house. I do have this smoothie, which is full of homegrown frozen carrots and courgette and some frozen foraged berries that I collected last summer. And it's lovely, but it's not quite a Magnum. Living here, I'm surrounded by projects. Some of them are half finished, but most of them haven't even started. Last week, I built the best part of a storage shed down by my chicken coop. And this afternoon, I'm going to try and make the doors for it so I can get it finished. Because in my head, I've already moved on to the next thing.
We got time on our side. We're in a state of hope. I need you on my fire. I want you to know that every time you're away, I long for you so much I can find my way.
Okay, the gap for the door is 117.5 wide and 113.5 tall. So with spacing, I probably want it to be 116 wide and 112.5 tall. People are always telling me to measure twice and cut once, but my problem is I measure multiple times and I get different measurements every single time. So whether or not this will work is anyone's guess.
It's a surprise that with you I feel alive. You'll be the last one I think about. We got time on our side. We're in a state of hope. I need you on my fire.
I looked at pictures of sheds online from proper garden building companies who presumably know what they're doing, and I am copying my door design from one of those, so hopefully it'll work.
And I saw you walking the line, and the truth may come as a surprise that with you I feel alive. You'll be the last one I think about.
I think that looks like a pretty respectable door. It looks like the one in the picture anyway. One down, one to go. The end of this shed is in sight. I really don't... Why must you do this? I don't need Chuck help. Okay. Where is the chicken food? Lure the chickens somewhere they're not going to be in my way. Yes, you did hear the food. Are all four of you here? Of course all four of you are here. No,
No. Get off that. Thank you. Right, come on. Out of harm's way, and also my way. This is going to be tricky enough without worrying about the doors falling over and squashing unsuspecting chickens. And it's already 6:30, and I would really like to get this done as quickly as possible because I'm filthy and I'd like a shower and a sit down. Oh, I've taken way too much off. Aye. Hopefully no one will look too closely. I don't know how people fit doors for a living because this is way above my pay grade. Could really do with another hand for this. Damn those chickens for not having opposable thumbs. Okay. Bit wonky, but it works. And that's good enough for me. I feel like I should probably admit that I don't really know how doors work. Apart from the basic opening and closing of them.
Beneath the starlit sky, our love's secret line, like leaves we soar so high. Beneath the moonlight, soft touch your hand in mine.
I might be able to go inside soon. Okay, more screws, and then I'm calling it done for the day.
Lost in the city lights, our love's electric right. You make me feel alive. I know July is gone. You make me feel at home in the neon glow.
Why am I always covered in stains? I went inside and had one bit of toast while I was waiting for my camera to charge, and I've got toast all over me. Oh my goodness. It's not quite finished. I'd still like to do a couple of things to the doors, and I think I've got a bolt kicking around in the shed that I can use, but I am really proud of how this is looking so far. The doors are a little bit gappy and wonky if you look too closely, but they open and close, and that is good enough for me at this point. I was hoping to be able to get a coat of varnish on the woodwork this evening so I could minimize the amount of time I'd have to keep the chickens shut away for tomorrow, but I am really tired, so it's gonna have to wait. I'm sad to say that I had to buy something in order to be able to finish this. I only had 3 hinges in the shed. I think I had them left over from the chicken coop. And I needed 4. So I had to spend 2 whole pounds on a hinge. But I'm pretty sure I don't need to buy anything else to get it finished. And £2 for a shed is pretty good going. And it only took me about 3.5 days to build, which is an improvement on the chicken coop, which took 3 months.
Summer's fading, there's nothing to do but bask in the glory of the winter sun. Maybe this is the season of love.
The wood on this shed is way too nice to be covered up with my usual green paint, so I've used some outdoor clear matte varnish that I had in the shed. It's probably not my finish of choice, but I didn't want to buy anything, and my only other option was some dark oak fence paint that was left behind by the previous owners, and I definitely didn't want to use that. But I think this will look okay. I'm going to let it dry. I might put another coat on later, and then I'm going to put the bolt on, and it's pretty much finished.
There you go, chicks. Nice pile of weeds for you to peck at. I've realised there's only one thing getting in the way of me living a slower life, but unfortunately that one thing is me. I could be sitting in my hammock reading a book right now, and instead I'm sitting in a flower bed where I've just spent 3 hours digging out a giant buddleia bush and tackling some invasive plants so that I can plant a tree that I've had sitting in a pot for a while. I think I need to have a long, hard look at my life choices and maybe a little bit of a rest, because my muscles were aching when I got up this morning, and I thought it would be really nice to have a bath, but it's a bit too warm to light the fire so that I've got hot water for a bath. And instead of doing any of that, I've come outside and done more manual labour. As far as slow living goes, I'm getting quite good at the slow bit because everything takes ages. I just need to try a bit harder with the living part because I sacrifice almost everything in favour of my to-do list. I am a work in progress. Perfect. This bolt came off the shed that I took down to make space for the chicken coop. Never let it be said that holding on to something because it might come in useful is a bad idea. Just don't look in my barn because it's full. You have shown more interest in this shed than anything I've purpose built for you. Those perches, that swing, couldn't care less. A shed that you've got no business being in? Yeah, it's the best thing ever. Okay, I've just got to mow the rest of the lawn and then I'm done for the day. Could also do a food shop, and I've got to start editing this video. And it's already 6 o'clock. I'm taking next week off to get on top of things before they all get on top of me. See you in a couple of weeks. Why are you perching on the tripod? It's not for chooks.